This is Adrian with Cyanogen Mod's creative team, and I'm here to tell you about a couple of things that I really like about the new OnePlus. The first thing that I really care for is this lock screen, mostly because the blur and the parallax animation is something that makes most of us designers very weak in the knees. The other thing that I really like, if I go here to settings, is the ability for you to compartmentalize and modulate every single thing about the interface that you like. If you want a scripted font, you can pick one here, and I'll go ahead and demonstrate that right now, just by hitting check and apply. Everything you see on the UI has now changed to that interface. You can see even my time is that scripted font. All of my settings are going to be using that scripted font. And you know what? I've already decided that I don't like it, so I'm going to go ahead and go back. We'll go back to the Holo D font, hit apply. I feel better. All of my stuff is back to where it's at. And that's just a couple of things that I think are really cool about the OnePlus and Cyanogen Mod and what you can do with it.
Yeah, can you tell us a bit, maybe possibly more, about the decision to include capacitive as well as on-screen buttons?
Yeah, so that was actually a really interesting one. So one of the things that we kind of feel, not only in the design community, but mostly within the Android community, particularly people who create design apps for it, is a lot of us are really big fans of the capacitive buttons, but we know that we have a certain subset of markets and users that really like hard key buttons, and it's kind of one of these big contentious items, especially if you go to like the forums, you'll see people yelling at each other back and forth over which is better. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to give you the option to have both, right? So right now you see I've got capacitive buttons turned on because that's what I prefer. But if I go into settings and I find the buttons menu, one of the first things I see is enable on-screen nav bar. If I turn that off, you see my on-screen navigation has gone away and my buttons have lit back up. And the reason we did that is because we didn't want to necessarily own that decision for the user. We wanted to give them the best two options that we thought were there, and we wanted to let them decide whether or not we thought we were wrong.
Fantastic. And the update process, since it is running Cyanogen Mod or Cyanogen, will those get nightly builds and all that support?
Yeah, so we're gonna, just like any other phone that we currently are supporting in Cyanogen as a nightly or as, like, for instance, like one of these cyanogenmod.org builds, those are still going to get a certain level of support. They're going to be, there's going to be members of the community involved in it and everything like that. As far as the above the rooted fold, if you will, those are going to be something that we do in-house, and we're going to do them as rapidly as possible. One of the things that we all internally aren't happy with is the long update times that a lot of manufacturers are doing, so we want to make sure that that's not going to be the case with these phones.
Excellent. And real quickly, can you just go over the general specifications of the device for me, like screen size, resolution, camera on the back, and all
Big and fast isn't good enough for you?
No! People like details.
Alright, so it has a Snapdragon 801 processor, I believe, and it's got a 1080 by 1920 screen, which is going to be 1080p. It's got a very large battery that lasts a very long time. What else does it have spec-wise that I really like? This is something that kind of is a hybrid between a spec and a software feature, but I really like that.
A little tap on, I like that.
Yeah. What about it's just like the clapper from the 80s.
What about the camera on the backside?
The camera on the backside is going to be your standard
13 megapixels?
Yeah, I'm going to say it's going to be about 13 megapixels. I'm actually probably going to get in a lot of trouble for not knowing that off the top of my head.
That's all right.
But yeah, it's going to be a standard. It's a pretty good shooter. We've been able to take some really good shots. The cool thing about a lot of the press shots that you actually saw in the presentation earlier is that those press shots were taken with this camera. Oh. So we weren't able to doctor them at all.
Fantastic. All right. Well, anything else you'd like to say to the Android community about the OnePlus One?
I'll give you my Google Plus login here pretty soon so you guys can all yell at me.
Fantastic. All right, well, thank you so much.
No problem. I hope everybody likes it.